Hello and welcome to some Saturday Night Crafty. My name is Sasha Reade if you've not joined me before. I tend to do videos on Saturdays and I aim to do them on Wednesdays, but I have been quite busy lately and haven't managed fully. But tonight's video is all about some nice easygoing crafting with what you've got in your stash, making the most out of your supplies, and hopefully I've got something for everyone in this video tonight. I've got a few different samples, different ways to do this project, but our focal point tonight is going to be pens. Marker pens, gel pens, whatever pens you've got, it doesn't matter. I'm using these acrylic pens, which are from Amazon. I'll link them down below if you want to check them out. But Crayola markers from your kids' stash will work, crayons will work, pencil crayons will work, whatever you have got is going to be amazing tonight. Getting started with my projects, I'm going to find the center point for my first version. So this first version is more for the perfectionists, the people that can't handle a dirty line. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. This is for the people that really need straight, nice, and neat in their life. For me, I'm about the easy, lazy, quick option, which is what's going to come up next and be the rest of the video. But for those people who really do struggle with not having straight lines and symmetry, this one is for you. So we're going to start by marking the center point of our card. And we are going to take a ruler and we're just going to draw random lines. Now I want the lines to be kind of long, short. So I'm going very uneven on both sides just so that you've got this kind of random look to it. Now I found using the ruler took more time, and I did wipe my ruler off in between so I didn't smudge any of those lines and I didn't carry any ink between my pens. But you can go for the easier option and you can go for a slightly messier look, if that makes sense. So I'm going to use a circle punch. You can use any shape that you've got. If you don't have punches, you don't have dies, you can trace something circular and use that as your focal point. I found that if I used a circle like this, it was much easier for my eyes to work with. It was much easier for me to make lines. So I roughly placed it in the center, and then I just start drawing lines outward. And I varied the length of my lines, but I tried to keep them straight, but obviously I'm not a perfectionist and I don't have a very good solid straight hand, so my lines are not completely straight. They're quite wonky, but that's okay. You can have a wonky card. It looks homemade and it's fine. Equally, you can go for the first version that gives you a lot more straight lines. But this way I found I could put a lot more lines down and it went a lot quicker. So having that circle in the middle meant that I could draw those lines outward and that I could have a nice bunch of flowing lines that didn't take me long at all to do. This only took about 5 minutes to draw all these little lines stemming out of it. Now the idea here is that you can either remove that circle. I used a repositionable adhesive from scrapbook.com, which I also used here on this balloon one. So this is where I took a die and I did the exact same thing with blues and greens. And so you can lift up that die cut and then you've got your shape showing through underneath. Now this is great for a one layer card. If you want to have just a single layer card, nice and easy for posting, then you could do something like this. Now I'm just using a removable adhesive rubber, which takes off the adhesive. I mean, mine's removable anyway, so it came off very easily, but it meant that I didn't have to rub it and get any bits of adhesive stuck anywhere. It just went straight onto that little eraser. And now you could go and put a die cut back over top, a nice clean one that hasn't got marks on it, but I found that this was a great way to do that one layer card effect. Now don't worry, I will go back to those first two that we did and I'll show you how you finish those off. But carrying on with this card, I'm going to create myself a little background layer. So I've got my top panel, which is 1 centimeter smaller than my card base, and then I've got a layer that's 0.5 centimeter smaller than that, so that it is 0.5 centimeter smaller than the card base. Now I'm going to use this nice bluish greenish color for my sentiment on my balloon. So I'm going to cover my edges of my little behind layer in that same color so that when I stamp my ink it kind of all flows together. Now Trinity stamps, these sentiment ones are my favorite. They just live on my desk. They don't even go away. I love them. I love Happy Birthday. I've got the thank and I've got the you. They're perfect. So I'll link them down below if you're looking for a really good set. These were the best purchase of my year. They were worth every penny. I have used them probably about 50 times over. I love them. But this is where it's a bit funny. Because I have these acrylic pens, my ink actually wouldn't cover up the lines. So I thought it was going to cover it up, but it didn't. So you can still see those lines poking through the happy and birthday. So I'm not sure this is my favorite card, but I wanted to share it with you anyways because I think it's a great one layer idea. And if I had a slightly smaller birthday stamp, I might have actually gone back and done that and put it in smaller. Now moving on to a different shape, if you've got something like a butterfly punch that you're desperate to use or a die cut, but you've got kind of like little fiddly bits like those antennas, this is how you can get the same effect and use that sort of central point without having to draw through those little antennas. So if you are doing your lines, you're going to struggle to do those lines with those antennas in the way. So I took a circular punch, something that's slightly smaller than my butterfly, used that as my center. I made sure it was smaller than the punch or the die cut that I had going on top, and I did my lines away from that so that when you put the butterfly on, it looks like you've got the sort of rays or the lines coming out of the butterfly, but we didn't have to worry about the fiddly little bits around that punch. So this is a great way to use up those dies or those punches you might have in your stash, or even shapes just in your stash, and be able to make them a focal point on your card. Now this is a little trick that I learned ages ago, is if you've got a punch, you can punch out another one or die cut out another one, cut it in half, trim off the little extra bits, and you can kind of make a shadow for your punch or your die cut so that it looks like you've used two but you've only used one. So here I've gone ahead and stamped my sentiment on that butterfly, and I'm just going to attach those wings that I have trimmed slightly so that they give me this beautiful little shadow on the outside of the butterfly without me having had to faff about cutting out a shadow. So now I wanted that to stand out a little bit more on the background, but first I'm going to trim it down so I can have my top panel have a layer underneath it. So I use the same cardstock as I did my butterfly, and I'm going to cut myself a little layer to go underneath, again 1/2 centimeter smaller than that top panel. Now to make that butterfly really pop, I've got some metallic thread in my stash. This is thread that I've had in my stash for about 5 years. I bought from AliExpress. I'm pretty sure it's still there, and I'll link it if I can. It's fantastic stuff. It comes with 12 different colors, and I always have a color for whatever project I'm using. Now to stick that on, I'm going to just stick some foam tape on the back of my butterfly to make it pop up off my card, and then that also gives me something to put my thread onto and attach my thread to. So to do my thread, I always go for the messy look. I don't like neat and tidy. I want it kind of scraggly and all over the place, so you can see I just kind of slap it down on the back of that tape and then pop my butterfly on. And then I've got that little bit of extra interest, a little bit of shine and metallic going on. And then to add to that shiny metallic, I'm going to use some of these flat back gems from Alina Crafts. I'll link those down below as well. This little pack has lasted me forever. And I've got my little pick-me-up tool. This is just blue tack on the end of a chopstick. Works a dream. You don't have to have all the fancy, amazing gadgets. You can just use some blue tack on a chopstick and it will pick up your gems beautifully for you. This is my only tool in my office that I use for picking up stuff. It is the best thing ever. And it lasts about 1.5 years, and then I ball it up, chuck it in the bin, and get a new piece of blue tack. Works brilliantly. So here are those first two that I did in the very beginning, my nice straight lines on the left, and then my more messy full lines on the right. And I did the exact same thing you've just seen me do. I balled up some of that metallic thread behind it, popped it up with a bit of foam, and added some gems onto it. So now I've got 4 cards, and I did this on Saturday night, so it is now 7 o'clock. You're going to be watching this a bit later than that because I'm voicing over at 7 o'clock, but I did this in about an hour. I did 4 cards in an hour with different shapes and had a really nice time listening to music and just creating away in my office. So you should have everything you need. You should have a pair of scissors, some markers of some kind, and I'm sure you can make this card. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Everything should be down in the description box below for you, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.